The National Museum is a museum located on Jalan Damansara in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. The museum is situated in close proximity to the Perdana Lake Gardens, and it provides an overview of Malaysian history and culture. Its facade comprises of mainly elements of traditional Malay and modern features. It was opened in August 31, 1963, and it serves as a repository of Malaysia's rich cultural and historical heritage. The National Museum is a three-story structure at 109.7 meters long and 15.1 meters wide, which is 37.6 meters high at the central point. The museum houses four main galleries allotted to ethnology and natural history. The display range from freestanding tableaus showing cultural events like weddings, festivals and costumes to traditional weapons, musical instruments, arts and crafts, ceramics and flora and fauna that is native to Malaysian culture and history. The National Museum was established on the site of the former Selangor Museum, meaning to say that before it became the National Museum, it used to be the Selangor Museum. It was built by the British and Selangor governments in 1898, following the formation of the Federation Malay States in 1896. On 10th of March 1945, during the end of World War II, the right wing of the museum was bombed and destroyed by the US B-29 bomber from the Allied forces. The museum's collection was then moved to the Perak Museum in Taipei in order to preserve what was left after the World War bombing. After World War II, the left wing of Selangor Museum was still in use as a historical site. On the brink of independence of the Federation of Malaya, Prime Minister Tunku Abdul Rahman conceived the idea to build a museum to house national historical and cultural treasures, as well as specimens of flora and fauna. The old museum structure was completely demolished to make way for a new museum. After the idea was conceived, construction began in 1959 and was completed in 1963. The National Museum was officially opened on 31st August 1963 by Tuanku Saya Putra Ibni Almarhum Jesus Christ. The National Museum was officially opened on 31st August 1963 by Tuanku Saya Putra the Third Yang di-Pertuan Agong, and on 4th April 1996, the building was gazetted under the Antiques Act of 69 and 1976 as an ancient monument and historical site. The museum's design by architect Ho Kok Ho was inspired by the architecture of Malay royal palaces and vernacular Malay architecture. The design incorporated the need for exhibition and activity spaces. The large mosaic murals spanning the entrance depict the history and culture of the country. The floor of the central section of the main building is decorated with special tiles, which were gifts from the government of Pakistan. Displays and exhibits in the museum focuses on local history, culture and tradition, arts and crafts, economic activities, local flora and fauna, weapons and currency. The museum houses various galleries, each with its own theme. The ground floor showcases the geographic and natural history of the Malay Peninsula, starting with the Stone Age, the Bronze Age and the Iron Age, Hindu-Buddhist kingdoms to the Muslim Sultanate of Malacca. The ancient Malay Hindu-Buddhist states of Negara, Srivijaya and Majapahit are referenced here as well. Among the collections are the stone Makara statue, the bronze Avalokiteshvara of Bidor, the model of Bujang Valley Temple in Kedah, and also displaying regions' ancient legacies such as Javan Borobudur and Majapahit vessel. The exhibit continues to the later Muslim Sultanate of Malacca and the various states of Malaysia. The display demonstrates the importance of Malaccan Sultanate for Malaysian national identity. The second floor is dedicated to the colonial history leading all the way to independence. There are copies of the royal headgear of Malay rulers also featured within the National Museum. Adorning the floor of the central hall are blue geometric design mosaic tiles from Pakistan with intricate carved panels on the ceiling of the hall. The central hall houses temporary exhibitions. Thematic and special exhibitions are held at this hall at intervals to promote an awareness of the country's diverse culture and heritage. Foreign exhibitions are also held occasionally at the national museums. Some of the exhibitions that were held in this hall at some point of time included the Islamic civilization, Our King, the World of Flowers, Durian King of Fruits, Masks from Sarawak, World Currency, Islamic Frontiers of China, American Frontiers, and Religious Architecture from the Netherlands. Being the architectural style icon of our nation that is inarguably rich in our culture and heritage, the National Museum Malaysia, otherwise known as Muzium Negara, has been greatly studied by many, providing us with an extensive amount of articles, journals, research papers, and monographs. Some of the relatively notable ones include the Muzium Negara, the National Museum 2010, which features an emphasis on the origin of Malaysia, creating a milestone for the future exploration and understanding of national architectural representation. Another one would be a fresh look at the National Museum 2010, which features a lift of scene in the National Museum, altering conventional subjects and style, finally sparking interest in more people after decades of experiments. A change in spatial layout internally that took 4 years and 20 million ringgit. The outer shell of the building is completely retained, and so is the operating system. In Museums, History and Culture in Malaysia in 2015, it featured museums as guardians of heritage and history, are much neglected and hardly studied in this modern day, despite its importance, resulting in lack of attention from the younger generation. And lastly, what we have featured here would be the Pengelolaan dan Pengurusan Muzium Negara, Sejarah dan Structure, in 2015, the development of the National Museum and the Department of Museums of Malaysia is a catalyst for the establishment and development of other museums. As a conclusion, conservation of buildings are an important step towards preserving the heritage and culture of the site, as the architecture that a structure or building contains the essence of history of when and where it was built. Architecture conservation is still an overlooked aspect of architecture and history, and raising awareness towards it would help increase the significance of taking care of our current building, in opposed to demolishing old buildings that are seen as businesses opportunities when replaced by new, shiny yet generic commercial buildings. Old buildings should be kept well maintained, whilst the programs or activities inside adapts to its current surroundings.